All right, so we are transitioning in this course now into something very different, okay? So let's all bring ourselves together here. Up to this point, we've spent some time learning about a couple different codes that you're still going to encounter even after we transition to WordPress. What are these codes? HTML, CSS, very good. So in the web workshop, we learned the basic structure of how this all started, how to create a basic website. We understood and learned that your basic website is just sitting in a folder, which is a root directory. So for our web workshop, our job was to turn in two of these sites. One was my personal portfolio, the other was steps. So when you go in there, you see some HTML pages, you see some images in a folder. This is a very simple way to put together a website. And even some of the more involved or advanced websites that I created before I started using WordPress were done in HTML, and there weren't that many files. They looked pretty cool because I did some advanced graphics and added some Java like widgets that I was able to put into the site. I added like a weather widget. It was quite complicated. I had to put all these specific files into specific folders. And in the end, I had an HTML website, and it looked pretty good. I used Dreamweaver to make it. I made a ton of these things before I started using WordPress. Dreamweaver is a WYSIWYG program, right? What you see is what you get. So now, with WordPress, I mean, when I moved over to WordPress, I couldn't believe the speed and efficiency of doing the same type of thing, like installing one of those weather widgets. WordPress has this massive collection of all these really cool widget type things called plugins. And you can do all sorts of different things to a website using this library of plugins that you can get, a lot of which are free, most of which are free. And in a matter of seconds, I would say it's working on your website. So this is why we don't continue in a marketing course, because this is not, remember, this is not an IT course. We are not in this course going to learn to build an app from the ground up. Okay, that is never going to happen. Okay, it involves a heavy-duty amount of coding. It's not what we're here for. We are here to learn to use the web to enhance our marketing for a business, a large one, a small one, a movement that we're trying to push. And whatever it may be, we're marketers, we're not coders. Okay, WordPress happens to be a very good platform to use where you can make professionally looking stuff without knowing a ton of code. We know just enough code now to get into this. So on to the second slide here. Okay, give me one sec. This is so annoying that it does this. There we go. I'm going to introduce you a little bit to this platform, make sure you understand what it actually is. But before we do that, are we ready to use WordPress? You guys are marketing students. You're in a business program. You are not in an IT program. It is part of the same school here at the college, but that's not what we're doing here. So, do you have any design skills? No. You guys are shaking your head. No. I'm willing to bet some of you do. I mean, we are not talking about going into Photoshop and spending an hour like touching up a picture and making it look completely immaculate and actually sitting down and drawing out a logo and then rendering it and putting it into Illustrator and making it digital. I'm talking about resizing a photo the proper way, putting some text over a photo so you can make a pretty slick call to action, making your own little banner that'll go across the top of a website that's fully customized and looks exactly how you want it to look. Okay, those are design skills. Fireworks, not so much. I mean, Fireworks is kind of cool if you want to do some stuff with Flash. It's not necessarily completely Flash-based, but Photoshop is one that I'm going to talk about a little bit more in this course. We're still only in week 4. I would ask that you wait until later in the course to download the trial version of Photoshop, because I will show you how this can be useful. But those are the kind of design skills I'm talking about. Adding text on a photo, adding some effects to the text, lightening or darkening a photo. I mean, simple stuff. Can you make a text-based logo? That's one of the simplest things you need to be able to do for a website that a lot of people can't do. Go out to the web, find a custom font that looks really cool, get it to work on your computer. Super simple, by the way, installing a font. Make a nice little rectangle logo of something, and boom, you're a designer. Okay, so you guys shook your head when I said, are you designers? You don't have to be artists, okay? a little bit of design. I'd be willing to argue most of you have that. All right, you're on who's on Instagram? Some of you are on my Instagram now, so I know. Yeah, like you're screwing around with your pictures, like putting them in there. Before that, even that is design. You're looking for the best formula to make your picture look the way it should before you post it, right? You guys are designers. On top of that, you just spent 3 weeks becoming developers. You have a basic understanding of some HTML and CSS. WordPress argues, ideally, and because a lot of these notes are adapted from the WordPress community. That's where I got these from. That's how WordPress works. Everything's free, everything's out there. It's a free textbook for you guys. PHP is the type of code that WordPress operates on, and I'm going to show you how to use WordPress without having to know how to deal with much of that code. You guys know just enough HTML and CSS to get around in a WordPress site and make the changes you need to make. And then creativity, okay? You may not think you're creative, but you are. You come up with clever things to say. You come up with a better way to put your content together in terms of the written stuff, the words that make it memorable, that make people want to come back and read more. Now, this is not going to be all about blogging. We'll talk about that, but that's how WordPress started. But you got to be creative. So guess what? Looking at these 3 things, you don't have to be coders. You don't have to be IT graduates. You can be a marketing professional or a salesperson or a small business owner that owns your own landscape company, and I'm sure you could still have those 3 qualities. If you do, you can use WordPress. So what the heck is WordPress? WordPress is a program, okay? And I want to start this off by making sure we understand that WordPress.org is what we are using in this class. WordPress.com is something different. WordPress.com, how many people in here have used WordPress at all, ever? One? Okay. Had a little bit better results in my last class. Okay, was it .com or .org?
I think it was .com.
Okay, so yeah, .com, you can go there. Well, we'll shoot over there really quick. Okay, you can go to .com. You can make a website here. It's completely WYSIWYG. Okay, there's nothing you can really do in the dashboard, though, still looks pretty similar. Like if you've used WordPress.com, you're going to see a dashboard that somewhat resembles WordPress.org. You just can't do as much. You won't have half the amount of plugins. You won't be able to customize the way your site looks to the same level. You won't be able to optimize it to the same degree either. Where in WordPress.org, you have all these different tools you can use to optimize your site and get it better viewed, or sorry, to get the site performing better with search engines, things that you just aren't able to do with WordPress.com. Now that's kind of evolving .com into something that's almost as good as WordPress.org, but it's never going to be as strong when it comes to actually customizing a site to be exactly the way you want it because of how much you can do with WordPress.org. So if I was to Google this versus WordPress.com, this particular page gives you a bit of a breakdown where WordPress.org, it's going to cost you more because WordPress.org is going to require you to pay for hosting to get your site online. You're going to be using WordPress as a program, but you're going to have to pay for a domain and hosting with a company like GoDaddy. WordPress.com will host it for you. A little bit less control because they're hosting it for you. You have to buy a domain and then connect it to that site through the name servers. But it's just, it's cheaper, right? But we're talking minimal spending here. I mean, we've briefly discussed the costs of hosting and the cost of domains. We'll get more into that when we get into our budgeting lecture. But some could argue, oh, WordPress.com, it's more free. I mean, they're both very free, but you do need hosting to support WordPress.org. You have more freedoms with WordPress.org than you do with .com, which has limitations, and maybe, maintenance and development. You might be doing a bit more work with .org, but it's better. You're going to be able to make a better site. So WordPress.com, they talk about it here. It's a commercial site where you can host your own site for free, but it's got limitations. It runs the WordPress platform, but it's all set up there at WordPress.com. You don't get to put it where you want and adjust it as you see fit. Okay? WordPress.org allows you to download WordPress as a program, and currently this is how 24% of the web is powered for websites. Almost a quarter of the entire web is running on WordPress. It's free. It was created for free. It's still free. There is money made in the platform for sure, but it's a quarter of the web. And this is why changing my course over a year and a half ago was already too late. And what the reason I kept shying away from it is because I didn't feel that the PHP code that WordPress uses was as well suited to optimize a site so that the search engines could read all your keyword content, like all the words. But they've sorted that out and then some. I mean, you can optimize a WordPress site easier than you can optimize an HTML site now. So it dominates the web. And with the software, you have to find your own hosting company. So how we're going to learn to set this up for the first 3 weeks before the test, and what we're going to do at the end of the lecture today, is we're going to set up our own hosting on our laptops. So I'm giving you guys a program that acts as a server, and that will enable you to host WordPress on your laptop. So now some of you are probably wondering, well, wait a minute, what the heck, Mike? Like my web workshop, I could just open it up. Here's my PP. Here's an index page. Boom, I'm done. Everything's working, okay? And that's true. But in order to make the platform that they did for WordPress and make it so easily customizable and have things just interchangeable and come in, out, and change the colors and do these plugins and the themes and the way you can change the way your entire site looks by switching themes in a matter of seconds, it has to use a different type of code that runs a database. So the WordPress software is actually database driven. And the way it works is when you set up a database, which would be a blank database, and put WordPress into it, you're loading in all these parts and pieces of a database that will become your WordPress website. So a database, just like an Access, did you guys have to take Access? I know you all took Excel. One person did. Fun. Yeah, Access is awesome. So a database is operated or running. It's running like a program. That's a WordPress website. Okay, so now to help you understand this, I'm actually going to jump ahead a little bit to this slide. Okay, so this particular slide right here is a very important one because this will show you the difference between what we just did for the first few weeks and what WordPress is. Because this step right here is the one that's added in. This one that I'm circling with my mouse. Okay, this is a big step. So our HTML websites that we made in the web workshop, okay, we have a bunch of files. They're in a folder. It's our root directory for our website. Okay, they're on a server. The server, by the process of hosting our files, is going to offer them up to the web. So somebody types in an address, the name server connects it to our root directory. Okay, the server goes bang, 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 sends the pages back to that computer. With the word, so it's just this, and this. Fundamentally, I mean, there might be a little more going on than that, but with an HTML website, that's how it works. Do you guys get that? That's why it worked on your computer the same way. Your computer technically was the server when you were just loading it up locally. It'll open up in the browser the same exact way it would open up if I put it in one of my folders in GoDaddy and went to try and open that file. And this step is not included with an HTML website. A WordPress website that operates on PHP assembles all these pieces in a matter of seconds, puts them together, then sends them to this place to then be put on your computer. So it's this added step. It doesn't mean every WordPress site takes way longer to load. In fact, for a lot of WordPress templates, which are called themes, they're pre-designed sites. You pick a theme, you pick a template for your website, and you put the stuff in it. That's what I'm teaching you now. We are not building sites from scratch. That was just to learn a little bit of code, okay? But after that, you're going to realize how much you can add on to that and how much you can do to increase your traffic on the site just by changing around the content a little bit. Things you can do to enhance your user experience. So this little step here has changed the game for us. By operating a website as a database, we can change things, send things in and out very quickly and efficiently. So that's what WordPress is, and WordPress.org is the version of WordPress we're using because we have more power to do those changes, to make these things usable and different and quickly adaptable to whatever we're doing on the web. So that's my mini introduction to WordPress. very quickly too, I'll show you what I'm talking about. When I go here and I load up a WordPress, I'll do an HTML site. Here's one of my basic HTML one-pagers for real estate. Okay, this is something I created. Oop, a little zoomed out there. There's an amazing WordPress quality that I'm demonstrating right now by showing you not a WordPress site. This is really small on the page right now because I've zoomed way out, which has changed the resolution of this screen temporarily at 30%. This is how it should look. Okay, this is not a responsive website. Do you guys know what it means to be responsive? 2 or 3 years ago even, let's say more like 5, it was a big deal to have these sort of WYSIWYG afterwards programs that would take the HTML version of your site and make it mobile. I think there's still one out there that people use called Mobify. Okay, so this is not a responsive website. This is a page where I'm plugging a couple YouTube videos, I'm talking about a property. If you loaded this up on your phone, it'd be this little rectangle and it'd be hard to kind of tell what was going on because it's not responding to what? To this, the size of my monitor, okay? Every single WordPress site, here's one that I've just made recently. This is a pretty simple theme. It's got the revolution slider, which is the revolution slider is a photo slider that goes across the top of your page. It's installed automatically. What am I doing with my zoom here? This is what it looks like on this size monitor. As soon as I load it up on my phone, it compresses the menu, it changes things around. This is called responsive. This is referred to as being responsive. If you pick a WordPress theme in WordPress, if you pick a pre-designed website that has been coded and created by one of our WordPress developers anytime in the last 3 to 4 years and then sooner, it's automatically going to be responsive. I used to have a whole section in my course on making sites, on making your sites work for mobile. I had this little mini unit on mobifying your HTML sites. I don't even have to think about it with WordPress. It just happens automatically. So this is a perfect example of why we want to use a platform like this. And just like Dreamweaver, WordPress is a WYSIWYG program. We're going to put stuff into it when we start using the dashboard, and it's going to show us what we're going to see ultimately in the web when it loads up. Some WordPress themes, and this is one that I kind of feel like I have a problem with. I picked this theme because, and that's again a pre-designed template, because it's a really good theme set up for like a one-page just scrolling thing. It's kind of neat, and I'm going to leave this up for when I get to talking about the blogging part of this WordPress thing. But this takes, you saw it, it takes like 2 or 3 seconds to load. That is a very bad thing right now. So one of the things I'm also going to remind you of is when you're picking your pre-designed themes in WordPress, try and find themes that load quickly. As of a few months ago, and I'm talking about this now in September of 2015, Google put at near the top of their list in terms of what they're looking for to rank sites, in the SERP, how quickly it loads. So you could have like really, really good content, and if it's loading slowly, it's going to kill your ranking. And this is what drives me nuts about teaching courses like this. Like 5 years ago, that wasn't even in the list. But now it's a big, huge deal. Because with the use of WordPress, you can add so much to a website that you can start to slow it down. And that's a bit of a problem. So I'll get into that more later in these slides. So let's keep moving through the slides. Do you guys understand what WordPress is then? It is actually a program. It's a software program, or a platform as I like to call it, where we can make websites WYSIWYGly. That's a real word. Okay, we can make websites in WYSIWYG format, so what you see is what you get, using their dashboard, which is the back end of WordPress. So WordPress is what's considered a CMS. Do you guys know what that means before I go to the next slide? What does it stand for? I don't think it's on the slide anyway. CMS, it's an acronym for what? Content Management System. So instead of just coding a site or having a WYSIWYG program like Dreamweaver that just allows you to see the code like it's going to look, it's actually dealing with thousands and thousands of files operating like a database. Now, WordPress still has a root directory, just like that web workshop folder I showed you. There's still a root directory, but it's full of a ton of files because that's what it needs to run like a database. Doesn't mean it's harder, and there are certain key files that you're going to very easily learn to find. And the rest of the stuff, really, as a marketer using WordPress, you don't need to worry about it. You're not going to go in and start recoding and stuff like that. So this was originally started as a blogging tool. You guys know where blog came from? Man, I love this 6 p.m. class. You guys are so pumped. Blog is short for what? Because it is short for two separate things. Blog, Google it. Come on, tell me. What's blog short for? Blog is a short term for, and it's like an online diary. That's basically it started. I think it started with the web. I really think people have been blogging since the web started, but it became really popular after the new millennium. People started realizing, like, you know, there's more. I don't think smartphones are really as powerful as they were then, but they could do more with their phones. More of the technology they were using was just completely virtual. So they started to track their daily stories more on the web instead of maybe in a diary or someplace else. What is blog short for? Weblog. Thank you, weblog. It's actually short for weblog, but that sounds maybe like something like, I don't know, at a campfire that got all screwed up and yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with that one, but it's short for weblog. That sounded like some weird joke my dad would have made up. It's a log full of spider webs. No, it's actually a diary on the World Wide Web, okay? So Joomla and Drupal and Tumblr, which a ton of people still use, are set up for blogging. There's Blogspot too, which was one of the bigger ones when blogging got really popular. These tools were set up for blogging so people didn't have to make a website. It was like, oh, sweet. I don't want to make a website. I just want to have a blog. So WordPress started the same way, but it started, these are free too. Well, Drupal's actually not. If you want it for enterprise, it's not free. That's what we use at Fanshawe here, is Drupal, for our content management system for the fanshawec.ca website. It sucks. Like you're very limited to what you can do in terms of editing how the site looks, because Drupal is set up so that the moderators can make the CMS look a certain way. WordPress, the dashboard's always going to look like the dashboard, okay? So Drupal's, it's powerful. I say it sucks because I want to do more to the stuff I've done on the Fanshawe website. I'm one of the few professors that's been allowed to go in there and change things until I accidentally left swear words on the website. And yeah, it was bad. It's pretty funny, actually. This is a good story, and I'm recording this one so I can put this in the video. I was responsible somehow. This is the best thing. If you have company retreats, don't come up with cool ideas for things to do, because then they'll go, oh, Sloan, that's a great thing. You should do that. So I got to be in charge of putting together faculty biographies on our Kinlan School section of the Fanshawe website. So I had a couple other profs helping me with this, but I was the one who was going to put it all into the website because I understand how CMSs work. It's really easy. Like, you just log in and then you go and click on things and it gives you a white box and you put stuff in it and it works. It's pretty much how WordPress is going to work, except it's better. So I was putting in people's credentials, and I was actually getting help from one of our intern students who wanted to try this stuff out. So she's putting it in. So I'm like, here's how you do this. Check it out. Here's mine. And I start typing my name, and I'm like, yeah, I have a Bachelor of Science. So I just go BS, and then I started typing out like bullshit, right? And I typed it out a bunch of times, but you can't draft anything in the Drupal CMS we use at Fanshawe. That's another cool thing about WordPress. WordPress, you can save stuff as drafts so it doesn't go to the web. Because most of you, when you're setting up WordPress, you're not going to set it up using this server utility and make it on your laptop and make it your own, totally local on your computer. You're going to probably pay for hosting, and the second you start your WordPress site, it's going to be live. So what you want to do then is make your content drafts. But I couldn't do that in the Drupal CMS, and somehow, and this is just my luck, somehow somebody Googles like professor contact info or whatever else I had on that same page, and the page was full of like 6 times the word bullshit, and calls the boss of our, calls my boss and says, hey, this is kind of weird because I was trying to find your name and this is what I found when I looked for, and I hadn't put her stuff in yet, luckily. So So Mary sends me an email. She goes, Sloan, what are you doing? Like, what is going? So it's funny. I'm like one of the few professors to get access, and I go and do that. But hey, it's another example of why WordPress is so great. Because in WordPress, I would have hit draft, and no one would have seen it. Okay, so we do have other platforms that are like this, but WordPress is the #1. And there's a stat in here. Where I clicked on it somewhere. It's a quarter of the sites on the web are now WordPress. I think we already got to that one. So it's a big deal. And it's totally free, which is an even bigger deal. And all the stuff I'm going through, I took directly from the WordPress website in the forum and the community. Because it's all there, because they're trying to teach you guys how it works. One of the first steps of using WordPress, they say, is to go and read about it. So it's a CMS, and the core software is built by hundreds of volunteers all over the world. Now, why would people volunteer to just do free stuff in WordPress or help fix things in WordPress? Well, because now that everybody's using WordPress, if you want a really fancy website already pre-designed and all packaged for you and turnkey and all boxed up and ready to go, you might pay 20, 30, 80, 90 bucks for it. And people make a lot of money coding and designing themes and selling them on WordPress. That's not what this class is about. This class is about picking the best themes that they're making and using them as marketing tools. For a small business, for a school group that you're in, for some kind of movement, for a fantasy football page that you made for your buddies, whatever you want it to be, for a personal resume, for a blog, okay? You can use WordPress and crank these sites out. It's the content that you need to spend the time on. WordPress is going to make things easier for you. So there's hundreds of people around the world putting this stuff together, fixing it all the time, updating it all the time. And the cool thing about WordPress is you install the software, you get this sort of, well, you don't get a blank slate. It always automatically comes with the standard WordPress website design, the standard WordPress theme. You get this sort of blank feel. Then you get to pick which theme you want to use to make the website look the way you want it to, and you get to pick from these plugins, which can enhance your website and add bells and whistles to it in all sorts of different ways. The plugins are awesome. So where it would take a lot of time to go through an entire site and make sure everything's properly optimized when you have an HTML site with piles and piles of pages on it, plugins in WordPress will help you organize and do all this like within the platform and the dashboard so that it's easy to deal with. It's easy to manage. You want your Google Analytics to be working and all set up in WordPress? It's a plugin. It's that simple. Okay? You want to be able to sell products on your website? Plugin. You want to be able to sell a lot of products on your website and set up an entire store there? Get a theme. It's already ready to go. 60 bucks, you got a store. Okay, those are the kind of things that are a little harder to do at WordPress.com, right? That's why .org is more powerful. Okay, so I'm going to start moving a little faster here. Started in 2003, over 10 years ago, and blogging had already kind of been picking up. So somebody said, this is annoying. Like I'm typing out all this stuff and I'm in this HTML format. I want a better way to sort of organize all my entries, all my diary entries, all my news postings, right? So they started to use PHP code to do this instead of HTML and ran it like a database, and holy crap, this is a million times easier. So PHP and the type of code WordPress uses makes things like a drop-down menu, which in an HTML site, it might be operating on Java or something. In WordPress, it's all running out of the database. It makes it a million times easier. You want to add a menu item, take away a menu item. It's a matter of seconds, where in the HTML site, it's a little trickier than that. So stuff like drop-down menus, having a search function available in your website. There is a very powerful, it's a Google, you can install Google search in your website, and it's a variety of files that you have to put in all these locations, or you can just use WordPress and every single theme automatically comes with it. It's scheduling things, having scheduling plugins for like a bed and breakfast. And you can have all the dates shaded out and all this. It's all just freaking done for you. You just find the plugin and put it in there. So for you guys in a marketing program to be able to use a platform like this instead of building websites in HTML and using Dreamweaver, which is a great program, but using that and then afterwards having to go and find, like I did the surf shop site in Grand Bend, so they had a weather widget on the front of it that showed like what was going on It was a nautical one, so it showed kind of what was happening in Lake Huron and stuff. And people would go back to the website just to use the weather widget, and then they'd see what we had on sale and stuff like that. So adding little really simple features like that to a website, great. It took me like an hour and a half to get this stupid weather widget to work in my HTML website. I had to put this Java folder here, put this file here, change these settings here. In WordPress, it's like, that looks like a cool plugin. Click, install, activate, done. Put it where you want it to. It's, guys, you should be pumped about this, because I should have done this with my course years ago, and I didn't do it until 2013, technically, and that's bad, okay? WordPress has been the game changer for a while. But back in 2003, it wasn't. It was just for blogging. And it was as soon as they realized by using the PHP to change, to enhance how they were blogging, they're like, oh my gosh, I can just use this database format for a website to do all sorts of things way more quickly, way easier. Okay, so everything you see, all of this stuff I'm talking about, totally free, done by the community. Okay, WordPress is an open source project. Open source means you can do whatever you want with it, right? It's not just free, it also means you're free to do as you see fit with it. So, oops, I don't need to be reminded of what the Canadian dollar is doing. So if I go over here to the open source initiative, it talks about what open source actually means, okay? There's a bunch of links in the file, in the PowerPoint notes that I'm going to refer you to. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but that was one that I thought was sort of interesting, because it also discusses how, you know, when you download some programs, you can get them for free, but only if you're a school or only if you're a teacher, and if you're not, you can just lie. But you know, there's things you can use somebody's logo, but you only can use it in a certain way. You can do whatever the heck you want with anything to do with WordPress. That's why their logo is all over my stuff that I teach you guys. I don't source it. I don't have to. It's open source. It's freaking awesome. So when you purchase a theme, there might be things built into the code that talks about who made the theme and stuff like that, but really nobody's copywriting a color, a background. I mean, it is what it is, right? There's just different ways to organize the content in your site. So it's nice to have these kind of freedoms, and you're gonna see, I like this, WordPress says, you're gonna see everything from a cat's homepage to a Fortune 500 company, which is kind of funny, and you do, because all these different, there's all these different uses for WordPress. So it started as a blogging tool, now it is a full-fledged website with full menus. These are all my pages. Sure, I still have a section where I blog, but it's not really blogging, it's my weekly newsletter. It's my bi-weekly recipe. It's whatever it is. You don't have to be stuck in this whole blogging thing. You can use WordPress to just crank out simple sites that are just marketing one thing. Okay, so what WordPress would like to see happen is what I'm trying to do with you guys right now. So unfortunately for you in my class and my online students, for the next little bit, it's going to be a lot of talking and a lot of sitting and listening to me. And then as the classes go on, you're going to do more and more on your laptops as we start to learn to use it. Their step number one is to read about WordPress. Like, read about WordPress? Like, what the hell? Well, check this out. So as I keep saying, it's free. And people love free stuff, so people are all over this. So when you go to wordpress.org and you go to Get Involved, it talks about all the different ways you can be part of the community, okay? You can actually start to code with them. You can help with just design stuff and maybe make templates. You can work on, you know, for the mobile team and make sure everything's working well there. Accessibility, support, polyglots. That one wasn't there a couple of years ago. What the heck? Oh, languages. That's another cool thing. WordPress, it's so freaking flexible and compatible with everyone. When you go and set up WordPress, the first thing it does when you install it is ask you what language you want, and it's like hundreds of choices right off the top. So if you want your WordPress dashboard to be in Russian so you know what it's talking about, you can set it to be in Russian. I would prefer in my course that you set it to be in English, so when I'm helping you I know what it's doing. But plugins, community, data, TV, WordPress TV. This is interesting. I don't even know what that is, so I can go and learn more about it here. I think this has been added recently, but these are the things you can take part of. There's a whole support section where I'll pick a theme that's made by some private company that's not part of WordPress, and they've jumped on the WordPress bandwagon to sell themes to people, to sell pre-designed websites, and something's not working in it. And I'll Google it, and I'll usually find the answer not from their website where I bought it from, but in the WordPress form. Okay, so this is what WordPress is all about. I mean, it just makes your life easier. Okay, so moving on, this little chart that they show you, the reason they say go and read something about Word, like go and do some reading about it, is because everything works better if you actually understand what you're doing, right? Or you understand what it is. So step one, they say read, go to wordpress.org, just spend some time, learn about what has actually happened here, okay? It started as a blog tool, it did, but hey, you know what? If you don't like blogging, you don't want to blog, blogging doesn't fit into the plan you have for why you're making this website, okay? Just set it up like a website. You can set up a WordPress menu and set up all the pages in like a matter of minutes. I had a student in the last section, I said, how long did it take you once you understood what WordPress was? And from logging into the dashboard and actually having a few pages in the website set up, he said that it might have been half an hour. Now, what takes longer is putting the content together, figuring out the quirks in a theme, how the menu's working, understanding that most themes start with the default menu, so you could build the whole menu there, and then if you can't get why it's not showing up, it's because you haven't checked off the proper menu. There's all sorts of settings that are built into the dashboard that you want to make sure you pay attention to. You want to be setting up your plugins properly. You don't want too many plugins. Okay, that's another thing that I think is hurting people now that are overusing WordPress. You want to you have just what you need, because otherwise it might load slowly. So they suggest pre-install before you even do anything. Go to our website for a couple hours and just check it out. We don't have a textbook in this course. I don't require you guys to buy one. You already pay enough tuition here. We got to have at least 1 or 2 courses where you don't have to buy more stuff, right? So that's WordPress. And I am going to ask you, even though it's a course where I proclaim it to have very little homework, I'll show you some spots where I would like you to go take a look at things before our next class, okay? So this kind of summarizes what I've been talking about. And this is one of their blurbs directly from their website. This is the kind of stuff they tell you. Hey, WordPress is great. It's easy to use. It's quite powerful and flexible. Creating a website and maintaining it, that's key right there. Maintaining it. I can set up a WordPress website, and if I'm working, like my brother and I were in that band together that I talked to you guys about on the first day, right? Remember the epic Mike Sloan intro? The band. So my brother and I were the main guys in the band. We both wrote. He didn't know what the heck was going on with websites, so I dealt with the website. But I would have loved to have him go in there and add stuff to it and write, but I didn't have it set up that way. It was an HTML site. He had no idea what to do. With a WordPress site, I can literally say, here's a hyperlink. Click on it. It's going to ask you for a username and password. Here you go. I made one up for you. And because I can set, if I'm the main user on a WordPress site and I make a new one, I can set what he has access to and what he's allowed to use. And I can literally make it so simple that I can say, you want to update our website? Go here, click on post. Wow, I'm like totally drawing a blank as to what it is. It's, give me 1 second here. So I'm actually going to pretend that I'm doing what I'm telling you I'm doing. So let's say I wanted to edit something here at this particular website. The link to a WordPress website to log into it is always wp-admin after the domain or domain and folder extension, whatever it is. It will take you to a page that looks like this. So you'll be here by the end of the next class. You should be logged in there. Now I've already logged in, so my username and password is there. So I'm going to click login. So pretend I'm PJ, that's my brother. He doesn't need to know what all this stuff is, and if I don't give him access to half of it, it won't be on the dashboard. So this, I'm jumping the gun here a little, but this is the WordPress dashboard. Fully WYSIWYG. I don't want him to mess with our pages, so I haven't given him access to it. All he can do is post. Post about the band, write about the last show we had. And all the way it was when I was playing a lot in the 90s, like, it was funny the way bands would talk about their night, right? When they were on tour, if they happened to be opening for a big band, it would always start with this. Oh yeah, our buddies, our best friends in Bigwig, we just opened for them last night and they're our pals and all this stuff. It's like, I mean, that's the whole like environment, right? So you want to go on there and talk about that because the people that are into your band will then be like, oh my gosh, they're friends with Bigwig, holy cow. And that wasn't our scene. We were more rock and roll, but so some punk band, whatever. Don't worry about it. That's the problem with these punk bands, right? 10 years ago, you would have heard of them probably. They were actually on the radio. So these are my pages. I'm not going to let PJ edit the pages. I'm going to let PJ go to posts, and he can talk about the awesome show we had last night with the Hives. There's a band I'd love to play with. Refer to the Hives, right? Okay, a few people have. Shit, these guys are on the radio all the time. What's that? There's one from Vancouver that you guys would have known. They're like the Hives, but they're not. They're very cool. What's the kind of rock and roll sort of power pop band from Vancouver that sounds like the Hives? There's some. I think there's like a color in the name. What did you say? Magic. No. No, they're cool though. Yeah, I like that band. Oh man, it sounds. I don't know. It'll come to me later. It doesn't matter. But he's going to go on a total waste of time there. Sorry. He's going to go make a post. He's going to talk about that. He will only be allowed to access this stuff. That's very cool that you can do that, because I could send him an email, right, with like, I don't know, 4 instructions. Go to this page, which is just WP admin, or WP login works too. Go to this page. Here's the username and password I set up. Go there, hit enter, go to the dashboard, go to posts, okay? Go add new and type some stuff out. I'll add the categories and tags later for you. We'll learn about that later too, okay? This is the beauty of WordPress. I don't make websites for my friends anymore. I make it a rule in my life not to make websites for my buddies, okay? You guys might graduate from here and realize, holy cow, I can make some pretty slick looking websites using WordPress without knowing a lot of code, and I could do not too bad with this. Like, you go out and charge $500 a pop for a half decent looking website where everybody's charging $1,500 at the bottom of the market. You're a new student, let's go try this. Guys, you could do well. So don't just blow this off. I know this is kind of boring getting into this for the first week or so, but this is very powerful, the tools you're going to get here. And this is only half our course still. The other half is focusing on content and marketing, ways to engage your users, how to properly integrate your social platforms into a website, how not to overdo it. We're going to talk about all these things. Designing the site and getting it set up is the easy part. It's making it work for you and adding all the content later. So that's what this is all about today, how easy it can be. So WordPress has this whole collection of links. I'm not going to go to any of these now. Before you install WordPress, it asks, like, have you gone to a hosting company that you know is capable of doing this? Any reputable company now that offers hosting, if you didn't log in right after that and see the WordPress logo as one of your options, they're not on top of things. But there are some things to be aware of. Like, if you're going to have one WordPress site, you can go with that cheap $3.99 a month thing and you'll probably be okay. As soon as you add another one, because of the amount of bandwidth they're giving you, it's going to take a really long time for those sites to load up. Like, you're limited by how much, RAM or memory you get from their server, from their computer to load up your WordPress sites based on how much you pay every month. Okay, I pay $12 a month because I want to have a bunch of WordPress sites running, and I still have issues. Like, here is one of the sites that I think needs to be dealt with. Like, I showed you that one WordPress theme. It was nice and simple, loaded up really fast. This one, watch this. See this little bit of timing? That's not good at all, okay? You do not want to be finding, now I use this because, as I showed you, it's got this really cool one-pager layout. So it's great for a smartphone, right? People don't want to navigate around in the menu. Everything they want to know is here. And I use these as one-off sites for some of my listings, and I think for that purpose it's fine. A lot of my traffic will be direct, but that's quite rare. If people are using a search engine and pulling you up based on their keyword search, you're not going to come up as high because of this slow load time. And this could be because you're overdoing WordPress, too many plugins. I'm only using one theme, but I've got 10 still installed in there. So every WordPress install has this dashboard, and you need to keep it clean. You need to pay attention to it. So yes, it's very easy. Yes, it's awesome that it's totally free and super powerful, but you still have to kind of keep up to date on how to use it well. And that's probably where some of that reading, some of the tips come to keep reading about WordPress, stuff like this. And that's why they offer you all these pieces of information, like this, all this stuff on the website. Like, it's always going to be there. This is your virtual textbook for creating a damn good website. Okay, and let me pull this back up. So more of the same stuff. Okay, wow, it's taking forever. more of the same stuff here, providing you with information that you'll need to know about before you set it up. I'll get into more of the details on this stuff as we get further along in the course and we're actually starting to set up. I'll send you guys after the test to a hosting company. It's optional. You can keep using XAMPP, which is this program we're going to install, or you can use the hosting company, which I think is better because then you're set up in GoDaddy, you have a website, you can show someone, it's launched. If you don't know what to do, just make yourself a personal portfolio site. Why not? You don't have to go in there and go nuts with it, updating it every single day. It's not Instagram, right? It's not Facebook. Like, just go in there once in a while and put something cool. Okay, and then when you go to a job interview, you actually have a place where they can go, where they can see. This is why I got to be careful with social too. If you're going to make a personal portfolio and you've got crazy stuff on your Facebook, I mean, you guys have been hearing this since high school. Like, you got to stop doing that. Okay? Like the guy that posted on Facebook after the riots at Fanshawe, man, it was so crazy. I took part in flipping this car over and lighting it on fire. And go figure, he was arrested like 2 days later. It's so weird the way that works. Like, we don't want to overdo our web presence, but having a website as the main hub to say, here's me, this is who I am, here's my resume, there's my Facebook, there's my Instagram, there are some of the things I've done professionally. Keep it clean, guys. There's no reason to, like, you know, I don't even know why people want it. Isn't that what Snapchat's for? Keep it on Snapchat, right? Keep it off the web. Okay? That's what I think Snapchat's for. That's why I don't use it. I'd probably be divorced or something. So, am I still recording here? So, yeah. Anyway, here's where things will start to sound familiar, okay? I'm just trying to keep you guys awake. I know we're an hour in and we're almost done because the second half of this class is trying to get this silly XAMPP platform to actually work on everybody's computer. You still have a root directory, okay? But you might be installing WordPress in the root directory for another website. Why would you do that? Well, maybe you've got a really slick-looking HTML site that you spent like half your life making, and it's still working fine for you, but you want to start blogging. So you can install WordPress as just a blogging tool inside of your HTML website, and then you'd access it through a folder. Or you do what I'm training you to do in this class, which is to use WordPress to just make your entire website. And the blog can just be part of that, okay? So it's good to make a test site. It's good to draft things. It's good to not post the word bullshit in a published page in the Fanshawe College website. These are all pieces of advice that I think you should, take to heart. So when you're posting blogs, have you made categories? Categories are great. Categories is another way to optimize the content on your site. Because when you search for things, a lot of the stuff that comes up now from search engines are articles about things. People have posted about this in a blog. Like, whenever I search for anything related to a product, the first 10 links are forums. This thing sucks. This thing's great. Here's how to fix it. Here's how I broke it. I love the web because of that, right? In fact, I just got a kiteboard from the former shop in Grand Bend because a buddy of mine had bought it out, and I felt like he owed me a favor or two. So I just went into the shop and just took this kiteboard and told him about it. Said, yeah, I'm taking that. It's been sitting in there all summer. I thought it was a 2013. So I spent about 2 minutes on Google, right? And I found in a WordPress site somebody who had been reviewing. It was the only place I could find a proper picture of it, and that was my means to find out that it was a 2011. And screw that, I'm just taking it back. You can give me something else. So I don't want a 2011, right? I'm still riding a 2005 board, which I love because surfboards are hard to date, but I need a new one. And that's what I took out of the shop, but So it was cool because I stumbled across this blog where somebody had been reviewing specifically kite surfboards, and they'd done a bunch of Nash, a bunch of Slingshot, a bunch of, well, you guys don't know the brand, you do, but a bunch of the brands. You'd know Liquid Force because a bunch of you probably in here wakeboards, so there's one you'd know. And he'd done this board and had a picture of it, and I'm like, haha, it's not a 2013. And I used to ride for Nash. If I did still, I'd know that. But so I didn't get a new board yet. Boo-hoo. But it was a WordPress site that helped me figure that out. So I thought that was pretty cool, right? I mean, it's an ongoing sort of just stream of content on WordPress sites. And if you don't want to call it a blog, you don't have to. But when you do that, you should put it into categories. And you should have tags. So I'll have a whole little mini lecture on categories and tags. It's a big deal. Have you made pages? Those are like the main, like traditional spots in your website. The contact page, the about me page, right? The I was an idiot fan shop page, and look what I posted on my Facebook profile. I wish I could have met that guy just to say, like, it's not just what you did. Like, because that whole stupid thing that happened at fan shop, it was like 15 idiots and then a bunch of people went to fan shop going, oh my God, what is going on here, right? It's the fact that you went on and talked about it in social media. So totally side thing, but it'll come up a lot in this course because we have to be careful about everything we say in content. Be careful about whose name you use when you put something. You're going to start writing a lot because you're not even going to think, oh, blogging, whatever. But WordPress makes it so easy for you to add content. And adding content is such a big deal to maintain heavy traffic on a website. So you're going to find yourself putting all sorts of stuff on there. Proofread it. Don't have grammar errors all over it, right? It's a big deal. What about header art? Are you going to design your own? What's going to go up there? Like, all these things are things to think about before you even install WordPress, before you even start. And this is kind of what our project plan is going to be about. I have an entire assignment that requires you guys to kind of sit down and think through the website before you actually make it. And if you're on top of things, you will have already started it, which kind of helps. But I love that WordPress asks you to do that. It's actually technically called an information architecture when you plan out a website. They're making it a little nicer for you here. So they just say, think about these things. Hey, don't just go and build it, just think about it. What about this, right? Are you going to host it yourself? Are you going to have your own server? What's the requirements? What are the requirements? Sorry, what do I need to do? Well, it might be good if you could use like Notepad++ or Text Wrangler. We learned how to do that already. It might be good if you understand how to set file permissions and how to use FTP programs. FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. And this we'll learn about later too, but that's the thing where if like you had to transfer 8 pictures up to your WordPress site, or maybe 10, and the files are pretty big, you're probably better off doing that using an FTP program. FTP will let you do it directly into the folder where it needs to go without having to zip it or unzip it. It's very cool. It's just kind of, FTP is kind of like a syncing thing back and forth. It just transfers file. Dreamweaver would do that by default. It was an FTP program built into it. So that will come in handy sometimes. I mean, you can still do everything from the dashboard. But if you're transferring, here's what I want you guys to have that most people don't have, the skills I want you to have. So everybody listen now, because a lot of you have been doing whatever on your computer. Just listen, okay? A lot of people know how to use WordPress. What a lot of people don't know how to do is build a WordPress site on their laptop and then transfer it to the web after. So it's completely private. No one can see it until it's totally done. There's no way to make a mistake of publishing a bunch of nonsense. And the way to do this is to use, unlike the HTML files that'll just load right up based on the code, as you've learned now, WordPress needs to operate like a database. You need your own little server built into your computer. So today, now that we're almost done, you're going to turn your computer, into a server so it can actually run these files. And that's a huge thing, because to understand that's why you would need FTP, right? Because you would FTP the whole site using File Transfer Protocol to upload it to the hosting folder of your client or whoever you built the site for that bought some hosting with GoDaddy. They have no idea what they're doing. You just need a few things from them. You need the FTP login and password, and you need the precise folder they want the stuff to go into, okay? Now, WordPress, unlike HTML, where you just load it up and it just runs, you'll also need to set up a database for that to work. So the database would then have the folder there already for you. We already covered this, so now you know. The web workshop, we had some files, went right to here, went right to your computer. WordPress, it's going to pull out all this fancy stuff, make it work in a split second, and then send it to your computer. Okay? So pre-install, here's where I'm going to shut up finally, and we're going to go and try and get this thing working on a computer. So as I've explained, if we're going to try and just have WordPress work on our own laptops without paying for hosting, we need something to act as a server. We need an actual server. So this is a program called XAMPP. And I ran into a bit of trouble actually. XAMPP I used in the class last year. I set up all these videos, I recorded them, I checked them in the summer, And then of course in August they updated it and the platform looks completely different. So I don't want you guys going online and just trying to find XAMPP. XAMPP will act for us as a server, and it will run a PHP database. That's what WordPress is. So without paying for anything from GoDaddy, we're gonna have this little thing on our computer that I asked you guys to download already called XAMPP. We're gonna install it and it'll make WordPress work, okay? If you happen to be watching another video that you saw of mine and it says go to apachefriends.org and download XAMPP, do not do that. Get it directly from Fanshawe Online and then it'll match what you see in this video. If you don't have access to Fanshawe Online, just find an older version. So the version I'm going to use here, so this is the local server utility. It's a program. You guys have all gotten this now. The version we are installing, if you want to go on the web and find it, is XAMPP for Windows. So did you all download this? I'm going to start with the Windows guys. Did you download this from Fanshawe Online? Okay, so unzip it. Just extract here. You got to uncompress it. If you're having issues with that, your download might have been interrupted. I would try it one more time. But it should just uncompress. It looks like this. It's an install program. So we're using version 1.83. I want you to start the install on your computer. Now, a bunch of stuff is going to happen. Watch the process I go through here and maybe do it right after. It does take a minute to do it. So, but you could just double click and start the install. Okay, so if you're on a Mac, it's going to look kind of like this, but things will be a bit different afterwards, and I'll show you where to go once the install gets toward the end. But everyone should just kind of double click the install file and just follow the prompts. If it asks you if Windows is going to need to allow this to access certain things, should you block it, just click yes to everything. So the first thing that comes up here, what's this?
This is what came up after I installed the file.
Okay. Did it install?
Well, that website came up.
I don't get it. Did it finish it? So the first thing that comes up here is a question about antivirus software. So this is going to work for most of you, but it's not going to work for a bunch of you, if that makes any sense. So this question here, just answer yes to it, and we'll deal with it later if the antivirus protection software that you have on your computer is actually going to cause a problem. Because what this is, so click OK. Okay, from here, just click Next. If it opens up a Bitnami website to kind of talk to you about the product, just close the website back up. Just go back to here and keep clicking Next. Accept all this stuff. Click Next. Allow it to make this folder. I think I just uninstalled, so I think I got to go remove that folder. You guys would not have to do this. Oh no, it took it out. Cool. Okay. So allow it to install the folder and click Next and click Next. And that's what opens up the website, right? So at that point, just close this silly website and keep clicking Next and it will install. Okay, and then we'll wait while this installs. Freaking out. Okay, Mac users. If you, now here's the deal, okay? As I explained to you, I'm not making you use Windows, but I think if it's not gonna work in your Mac, that would be the easiest fix. Because I know how to make it work in Windows, and I don't know why, but this year I seem to be running into issues on the Mac that I can't resolve, where last year I could make it work on everybody's Mac. So if you don't have Windows on your Mac, then start by trying the Mac version. So number one thing you need to remember is when you go to download this from FOL, as I mentioned, a lot of Macs will automatically unzip it. It will take it will unzip it like right from the download location, and it might create a security block on you. So you need to go to System Preferences, General, yeah, or Security. Yeah, there should be one. Yeah, you Mac users know what to do. There should be somewhere to go where you can force it to download. So get it to download. Click through, install it. Go through the same stuff I'm going through, but when you're done, yeah, that's good. Okay.
I've been doing this for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I know. It might take a few minutes, okay? But that's why I ended the lecture early, so we could do this together. So when you're done, you want to try and get the services running. So guys, this is the last thing I need to make sure you see. So Mac users, You might want to go into the second set of notes ahead of time because you guys are being really good and you're here. That still won't fix that. I'm going to come to your computer in a minute. Yeah, I'm seeing that. You want to go into the second set of notes and it will take you through the steps for Macs. So this is week 4.2 notes, okay? And if you go into those notes and start at slide 12, it'll walk you through all the Mac steps. The second set of notes from week 4, okay? Mac users, did you see that? Okay, if you get the second set of notes from week 4 and go to slide 12, it will show you what to do once it installs. You have to get to this location, okay, which is arrived at by using that little gear icon, and then you click on Manage Servers, which is the middle tab, and you have to get all 3 of these services running, all 3 servers, and turn green, or we have some issues, which I will try and troubleshoot now. The issues that we usually run into are Windows issues, and those are dealt with in the lower slides here. So. Yeah, this is just PC users. So if you can't get your services green in Windows, these slides will help you in the week 4.2 notes, and I will help you. If you can't get them green on a Mac, I'm going to have to figure out what's going on and then maybe post some more notes. I would try and restart your computer.
It's everyone that has a Mac right now, that one won't turn green.
So once the install finally finishes, and again, if you run into trouble on in a Windows computer, listen, you go to the second set of notes for week 4 and it will show you how to fix this, okay? You can change the ports, you can put in an alternative port for what XAMPP is going to use. Computers operate on ports when they do things that like need to run databases, okay? Skype actually uses ports. Virus protection software tends to use ports. A lot of the torrent things we use ports. If they aren't running when you're running XAMPP, it probably won't matter, but that is likely the reason why XAMPP won't work once you get to this stage. So everybody will probably at least get it installed, and then you hit finish, and as soon as you hit finish, if you leave that box checked, it should open up the control panel. So every time we want to run WordPress, which we're not doing till next class, we're just getting XAMPP running today. Every time we want to run WordPress locally on our machine now, we need to have XAMPP turned on. So every time I'm not using XAMPP, I go down here and quit and turn the control panel off, which means when I log back into my computer then, I need to go back to Programs in Windows and find XAMPP. So if you're in Windows 8 or 10, you would just search for the XAMPP control panel in your apps. Okay, I'm in Windows 7 still, so I just go find it in Programs and pull it back up. And then you start, you need to, at minimum, you need to make sure you have at least these first 2 things running in green, okay? It would also be good if you can get this one running in green, but I'm probably going to have you guys use FileZilla when I teach FTP, which is a separate program. But you need these first 2 things to turn green. On a Mac, when you got to the end, it was a little different because you got to the end and it pulled up a little window that looks like this, and you have to click on Manage Servers and then click on each of those and hit Start to get them to turn green. So if you are on a Mac or PC and you cannot get these things to turn green, I'm going to show you the PC fix first, okay? Well, I don't have to show you. The first PC fix, if you can't get them to turn green, is to turn off all the things I just talked about that would probably be using port 80, Skype, virus protection that is not Windows Defender, which, by the way, is all you really need if you have a Windows machine. You don't need McAfee, you don't need Norton, you don't need Kaspersky or whatever all these weird ones are. Just get that junk out of there and use Windows Defender. Or if you have Windows 7, I think it was called Securities Essentials back then. I have this thing Fanshawe gives me, but it doesn't interfere. Skype would do it, torrent software would do it, some of the gaming stuff would do it if you have it running in the background. Programs that run in the background will stop this from working. So what you can do is go to msconfig, which if you search in Windows 8, it's a little different. In Windows 8, it'll bring up this window but when you go to startup, it'll ask you to go to some other thing, and you can go and disable. Whatever you see in this list that you don't need running when Windows starts, turn it off. It's slowing down your computer anyway, and it might be taking up the port. So I have all sorts of stuff turned off. Like, I don't need all this Adobe crap running. As soon as I open an Adobe app, it'll start then. I don't need Apple running. I don't need QuickTime running. When I go to use QuickTime, it'll start. I don't need it starting with my computer. Okay? Same thing with Java. It'll run when I open up something that needs Java. So in Windows 8, it'll look a little different because you go to startup and it asks you to click on something else. And then you go in and it'll allow you to enable or disable along the right side. Just disable the stuff you know you don't need. That alone might stop the thing that's taking up your port after you restart your computer. If you have Skype running, then that's the obvious culprit, okay? So you need that to be green. If that doesn't work, you can go to the instructions from the second set of notes from week 4, and because I want to try and get you guys to get this done before the next class. Go to the instructions from the second set of notes and go to slide 18. Slide 17 will show you where you click on it to get to the file. If you go to slide 18, you pull up this file, httpd-conf. Okay, it's a configuration file that you get to by clicking there. Pull up that file and change everywhere you see the number 80 to 8080. Somebody just came up here with that problem and I fixed it by doing the 8080 thing. Okay? If you're on a Mac and it's not working, I will hopefully have a solution posted by the next video, but I can't. Did you come up with a reason why it's, oh, what'd you do? Okay. I was just going to say, I'm going to Google some stuff after class. What did you learn by Googling my Mac user that fixed it?
You have to open the terminal and put in some line code.
Yeah, I thought. Okay, hang on. Yeah, I thought that was in my notes here. Okay, the terminal on a Mac is, if you go to your, I'm going to make it, oh man, I'm going to have to get on somebody's Mac and make a video for this. Does anybody's Mac have an AVG port on it, like an AVG cable for a monitor? Okay, guys, the one thing I forgot to mention for you in Windows, when you click all these, the first time you click them, your Windows firewall is probably going to say, hey, whoa, 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 do you want to allow this to access the firewall or break through the firewall? Always allow for everyone, and just click allow access and you won't get that message again. You're totally good.
Me?
Yeah, you're good to go for Friday.
I got this black.
I'll show you, hang on.
Yeah,
so make sure, I can't get my computer to do that anymore because I already bypassed those messages, but just make sure you're aware of that. Okay, now to end things, I just want you to see that I've actually added one final thing into your FOL content. That should be there now if you're watching this video. And that's a terminal code for Mac users. So if you're on a Mac and you could not get everything to turn green and you know you've done it all right, it's because of an access problem. So what you need to do is go to your Spotlight, so the little search thing on your Mac, and pull up the terminal. And then most of your Macs will ask you to put in the password, which is weird because you won't even be able to see it, but you got to type it in and it'll take it. And then as soon as you get into the terminal, you put this exact text in there, no extra spaces, just from here to here, that exact text, paste it into the terminal, hit enter, go back out, and you should be able to get that that top service to turn green. Okay, so this is your fix for Mac users, which unfortunately, guys, it's hard for me to demonstrate this in the videos because I don't have a Mac, and I'm trying to make this Mac compatible for everyone, so that's your fix. And there will be some more Mac issues that come up when we go to run WordPress, but those will be dealt with in the next video. Okay? So thanks for watching. I know that was a long lecture. We went through a lot of stuff, but with everything we have in here, all of you should have your services running and should be ready for the next one. I'll see you at the next class.